arms of the angels, far away from here. In the arms of the angels, you will find some comfort here. It was this song as I lay in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. This song came into my head. I remember feeling my eyes closing and feeling a sudden calmness come over me. The pain that I was in was easing, the tightness in my chest relaxing. Everything was just felt so calm. I was at rest. I was at peace. Of course, it hadn't started out that way. That big night out with Danny. Big nights out with Danny were far from peaceful or tranquil. Shots, cocktails, dancing, clubbing, drinking, more steps, more shots. Being out with Danny was like being on some sort of roller coaster, except you couldn't get off until you'd thrown up in a doorway and had a McDonald's on the tube home. I think that's my biggest regret that night. Oh, no, not the McDonald's on the tube home, no. My biggest regret was that Danny didn't get to do his full routine to Scared of the Dark before I was stabbed. I can't imagine how he must have felt. I mean, it was our song, our anthem. I wonder if he still plays it and thinks of me. I wonder if it was Danny who told Mom about what had happened. I do hope it didn't upset her too much. I mean, I lived life to the full with Danny Hutchinson. We had some wild times when we were kids, playing out on the rec, pissing off Mrs. Old Lucas next door with our pop concerts and fashion shows. Yeah, I always thought I'd marry Danny one day. That is until he came out to me and told me he thought he was in love with H from Steps. I laughed at him and I told him, that's fine. I fancied Lee, so we could have a double wedding. But later down the line, little did I know, it was Claire I wanted. So marriage with kids with Danny was well and truly scuppered with us both being gay. I remember the night I told Mum. I'd been out with some of the girls and Danny to some quiz at the local pub. There was a waitress who I fancied, and Danny gave her my number and told me to go ask her out. And I did, and she told me her boyfriend was the one with the microphone reading the questions. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. Totally mortified, but of course Danny thought it was hilarious. It was when we were walking home that it occurred to me that I couldn't tell Mum any of that without changing the story to the waiter and the girl with the microphone. I knew at that point that I had to be honest, and I had to tell Mum that I was a girl who was into girls. I don't know if it was the shock or disappointment on her face. Shock at me being a lesbian and disappointment that I wasn't being the perfect daughter she'd bragged about. There was also a hint of rejection. Well, it was more than a hint. It was a defiant edge of rejection. My family, all I'd known since I was born, were rejecting me because I wanted a Princess Charming and not a handsome prince. I heard her crying with Dad for what seemed like hours. The next morning, Dad said nothing, just read his paper. asked me to pass him the milk for his tea. And Mum, she wouldn't even look me in the eye. Her own daughter. It was like I was no longer part of her. I mean, she accepted me in time. Joe helped with that. I think when she saw that I'd met someone who made me happy, like really happy, happy like Mum and Dad. That, well, without the bickering. Well, with the bickering, but with much better make-up sex, I hope. I think that's when she knew I'd be all right, that I wouldn't be some sad old lesbian spinster with 7 cats and Katie Lang on repeat. Yeah. Joe and I would be at Mum's and Dad's every other Sunday. Mum would do a roast, I would bring some flowers that I bought on the way, and Joe would take a pudding. Now, I think that's what really won Mum over, the fact that she'd gained a daughter-in-law who baked like Mary Berry, but had the sex appeal of Nigella. Oh, Joe Summer Berry oh my goodness. Joe Summer Berry Pavlova was the talk of Mum's WI meetings. I swear, she just wanted to get photographed naked behind Joe's stiff, luxurious meringues. Like some kind of calendar girl. It's the Sunday roasts that I'll miss the most about Mum and Dad. Sunday visits, generally, to be honest. And the drive home with a piece of pavlova and the old Tupperware resting on my knee as Joe and I would brave the journey back to London. And Joe? Fucking hell. I miss Joe. I mean, she was the love of my life. My soulmate, my forever girl. I mean, we were the perfect couple. She even accepted my GBF, Danny. I hope she can move on. Find another girl. Someone to make her happy. She deserves that. I just wish she'd been out that night, so I could have told her that I loved her. I could have given her a hug and bought her a drink and shown her this. I wish I could have told her that we were going to be parents. All 3 of us. Me, Joe, and Danny.